A lot of frameworks online you'll see are in certain orders, right? I don't know. They have pyramids, they've got fucking, boxes, they've got, circles, right? Everything, right? And they say you have to do this in a particular order. You've got to first the why, then the how to, or what they do, then their personality, right? All this type of stuff. Hey everybody, this is Mario Ranchi, brand strategist and founder of ManuFracture, here today for another episode of Ambitions of an Agency. And today we are going to talk about frameworks in strategy and how they are interchangeable. So in the basics of strategy, in which I laid it out, 8 elements clearly of a strategy session, frameworks are a great part because it's all about structure. Good structure helps a strategy session move along in a good flow, right? It's counterintuitive to nature. It's like, but Mario, you said we have to have a conversation, right? It's exactly, that's the whole point. Structure, right? It's like a big structure, right? And then you have all the different, layers or rooms here or whatever, right? And everyone's just doing things in there, right? So it's literally like structure, so that we know the context of the conversation and what we're doing, and all this underlying, unpredictability stuff that comes around, it can be contained in that structure, right? So that's just to clarify. That's what I meant by, not keeping it too structured. It's really important to make sure that it feels like a conversation, but it's also structured, kind of in the balance of the two, right? So very, very important. So basically, what interchangeable frameworks basically means is that you can take frameworks that are in a certain way, right? Because that's how it is, right? A lot of strategy online, a lot of frameworks online you'll see are in certain orders, right? I don't know. They have pyramids, they've got fucking, boxes, they've got, circles, right? Everything, right? And they say you have to do this in a particular order. You've got to first the why, then the how to, or what they do, then their personality, right? All this type of stuff. But in fact, you can rearrange all of this crap to fit your own needs, right? A framework already set doesn't mean that you need to follow it completely, right? The framework is set that way because it's known to work in that way. This structure is laid out because it will get to the end result, the insight, whatever it is, the valuable insight that will lead to the unique selling point, whatever it may be. So the first thing is then look at the different types of problems that you are going to solve in a project, right? Think about the problem you're solving. Right now, I'm solving, a very interesting problem. I'm solving a naming problem, right? I'm solving, a brand consistency problem, which is just make sure that those brands are recognizable from the same founder or the same person, and known for almost the exact same things, but in different sectors and different segments of market, different target markets, right? It's very important. So, and then what else, right? So standing out, right? There's so much other competition. There's, people, how do they stand out? How do they communicate their value properly, right? And so you have to understand, okay, well now what frameworks help with fixing that? What type of frameworks help with fixing a problem like that? Well, I picked at least 3 or 4 in this case. I picked first, my user profiles. You got to have your user profiles. They're really important, right? Just to get basic, really, deep data on the target market and understand the day-to-day struggles. And then, the second one is really just the brand elements, which, I've added a lot of different stuff over the years on, but it really just follows the formula of desirable result, how to get to a desirable result, the purpose, and the tone, the look and feel, how people want the brand to look and feel, or how they want to have the brand look and feel, and the unique selling point, right? So those are a few things, right? And then what I added during the brand elements session is actually something I just picked up, which is escape and arrival timeline, right? And basically what this is, if you look up Frank Kern, he's already done a ton of videos on that, but it's basically the escape and arrival timeline. He basically states that human beings are trying to escape from one place of terrible situations, basically, or terrible feelings, to a place that they're experiencing great feelings, good stuff, right? And he says that, this timeline can be broken down in different various levels, right? And I thought this is a very interesting take on the customer journey, right? Because you usually make a customer journey graph or whatever, or sales funnel graph, right? With the, funnel looking thing, whatever it's called, right? And you see it only like this, and you only think, okay, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, almost at the end, wanting to work with you, right? Whatever, right? You have that sort of thing in your mind at the moment, right? That's how a sales funnel works, right? Research, or awareness, research, getting contact, sale, or something like that, and then repeat, right? But what this framework does, which is very interesting, is to actually lay out all the different steps a person themselves would take, or how would you, if you were that person, what would you do to get to the desired result? And you can map out an entirety of all the steps, even before the actual user journey comes in. There's a ton of steps before the user journey that are interesting to see. We saw, they use free resources first, or they talk to friends, family and friends, or they search up Facebook groups, or sometimes it's they have an urgency, right? They see the next school year coming. If they're parents, they see the next school year coming, and they have to find a way to fix this problem, because they know the next school year is coming. Their son is going to potentially have a problem, so they're already thinking about the future, which already even proves that escape and arrival thing, right? They're thinking about the arrival of a good state versus escaping from the urgent state that they're in, right? So this really is a good way of doing a user journey, but using the customer's mind as the journey, rather than the idea of the first part of the second part of the customer journey, which would be basically getting into your funnel and being aware of things, right? But the good thing about this is that you can understand what type of things are relevant to your customer journey, right? The funnel part, and then you can understand those things, and you can create content based on that, and you can understand how to communicate based on those parts, right? So really interesting stuff. And so the timeline thing, really helped me understand the target market really, really well. It helped me, break down, ways to, basically milestones. So each step in between, so going deeper into the day-to-day lives, and then even more so showing how you can create conducive relief. And conducive relief is really cool. Thing I learned is because conducive relief basically means is like how can you make the target market feel like they've already gotten there without actually getting them there yet, getting them there emotionally. Now that's really key, right? How do you get them there emotionally? And this is what I've learned is like you can do that. You just have to do this in a format like, show them the possibilities along the way, how it can be done, right? Show them steps along the way that it can be done. Show them that it's possible, right? Success stories, patterns, studies, things that all lead all the way to the end goal. And at that time, they're already feeling this can be possible, this can be done. They are entering the future before even getting there. And that's powerful, because what that does is that creates internal decision making in the target market, in the person reading your content or reading whatever it is. After a while, they will make the decision themselves to sign up for a call or whatever and meet you in person or whatever, right? Whatever thing, they will take an action that will be their own internal decision, making the selling process much, much more easier at the end, because if they are making the decision themselves, it's very hard pressed for them to fight against their own decisions. So incredibly powerful. And then after that, we did the basic brand elements and the timeline, and then we did the naming thing, right? Started to create names. We got a naming matrix. I think it was from Vitals. We just got off their site, looked through it, did some modifications to it, but overall kept to the same thing, and started to brainstorm strategies on that, and and then at the end we were realizing, we know what we're prioritizing at the moment, but let's go through some marketing assets, right? And the main thing here is that I didn't follow a straight structure of strategy that is laid out in a booklet or whatever. It's pieced apart together by different types of frameworks that work in that context, right? And that's what really matters. If you don't have a strategy like that, you're probably doing strategy wrong. Because even if you are gonna do the basic user profiles or brand elements and then prioritize goals or whatever, what if that's actually not gonna solve the problem, right? You know? And then maybe there's some strategists that will say, well, Mario, it's important either way. They will have an understanding of their goals and their priorities, and it will be better for them overall, right? But the thing is, you have to keep the goal in mind. Whatever the goal is, think about that goal, right? You talked on them on the call, pre-strategy or whatever, pre-discovery call, whatever you want to call it, right? You talked to them a bunch, and you figured out there's one singular objective that they want, right? And sure, maybe that singular objective, might not be incredibly important, but however, it is incredibly important to him to see his return on investment. It is incredibly to him to see this amount of people go through the pipeline, whatever, right? Long-term strategy will happen. It will happen, but you have to combine it with short-term, right? Mark Richardson or whatever his name was, but he's a really good marketer. Said this is like, you have to have a balance between both. You have to the short-term ROI and the long-term brand. You've got to do both in conjunction, right? If you do one or the other, the brand suffers, the business suffers, and sales suffer, in general, right? So understand that any sort of framework that you put forward has to be in line with, fixing that strategy. And after a while, which is really good, if you're working with the same clientele over and over again, you will start to get an understanding of which frameworks work best. And you'll be like, oh, I gotta pick this one and combine it with this one, right? You'll have understanding of how to match frameworks together to form a chained result to get to the desired outcome, or to find the insights that you need, really, right? And that's the best part. When you understand that, you're already on a better level of understanding strategy. You don't understand it as follow procedure, follow framework. It is follow framework, but what can be done here so that this problem gets solved better, right? And it's incredibly important. So next time you have a project, really the insight is just to, combine those two or three frameworks together if you have them, mix them around, try them differently, right? Based on the project, or even experiment around, try it on some people for free for a while, just to experiment around and see how the frameworks work. But ultimately, you can just start with a new client and then ask them exactly what they want, build the framework out, build the exercises out, and you're good to go. So that's really it for this episode of Ambitious Agency. Hope you got some value out of it. Hope you understand how to do this better. And I will see you on the next one. You can comment below. What are your thoughts? Do you chain strategies together, or do you stick to the kind of vanilla sort of things that are laid out in a booklet or in a book? All right.